Welcome to our Emerald Coast community, a show that highlights the businesses, individuals, and organizations that are making a difference in our community. I'm your co-host, Martha Laguardia Kotite. I'm excited to introduce to you today a special guest, a United States Air Force veteran and Master Sergeant, Christofer Curtis. Christopher, thank you for being here today. It's so great to see you.
Appreciate it, Martha. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your job. I understand you're stationed here at Hurlburt. What do you do there?
Right, I'm here at Hurlburt Field, and basically I'm in the flight test world as far as all the aircraft you see flying today around the Emerald Coast. So what we do is test all the new software, hardware of all, basically of all variants of aircraft.
And what is the aircraft that you typically fly and test on?
Right, primarily for me, I am a CV-22 SMA, or Special Missions Aviation, and we test on the CV-22, which is a tilt-rotor aircraft, the funny like helicopter airplane thing you might be see flying along the coast.
Yeah, we see a lot of those flying around. So that one is special and unique because it can fly like the fixed wing and also fly like a helicopter and land on a dime, if
On
you
a
will.
dime, absolutely. You might have seen that depending on where you are, along the beach or at home, and you might see us coming really fast or maybe slowing down for basically a hover in the air.
Yeah, and so typical crew size is how many people?
We have 2 pilots and 1 flight engineer. We call a basic crew, or what we call a tactical crew for what we train for our operations downrange. Is basically 2 pilots and 2 flight engineers, or SMAs. We're actually also SMAs.
Okay. And for a downrange, like you mentioned, you would be transporting special ops, like what kinds of, how many people would that be in the back of the aircraft?
Right, that's a great question because it is primarily used to what we call infiltrate or exfiltrate special operations forces as well as supply them. So basically what we are is we're that kind of bus in the air that transports a lot of special operations personnel all over the world. But our bus is fixed with really expensive technology, amazing sophisticated technology to perform at night, in weather, and many really challenging conditions.
That's the kind of bus I want to get on. I think that would be fun. Well, tell us about your deployments. I know you've deployed. Where have you deployed?
I've been to Iraq twice and 1 tour in Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. So, Chris, you have an interesting story, quite an inspirational story. And as we lead up to that, it was something that changed your life and changed your future, and it happened during your Afghanistan deployment. So, tell us about what was happening a day or so, or on that day of your deployment when your life changed forever.
Sure, that was about 9 years ago, 9 April, not too long anniversary from today, and we were on a lead. I was on a lead crew of a 3 aircraft capture kill mission. I guess you could say it's maybe the proper term, but we were hauling. We could talk about hauling special operations. We were hauling a team of Rangers to capture kill a known hostile insurgent and terrorist.
Wow.
So, and it all went bad, unfortunately, on. As we approached, we talked about the aircraft's very fast and it can also hover. And while we were the landing phase of that operation, the aircraft, something went wrong, but unfortunately we'll never know.
And I understand that obviously your pilot and co-pilot were doing all that they could to try to keep the aircraft in the air, but it just wasn't in the cards that day. And so out of that terrible, tragic crash, there were a number of people that passed away and a number of people that were injured. Is that right?
That's correct. Out of 20 total souls on board, there was 4, unfortunately, that did not make it, to include half of my crew.
Mm-hmm. And you were one of the survivors and severely injured. What was it? How many bones did you break?
They tallied 17.
17 bones. Where? Like, how do you break that many bones and still show up today to talk about it?
A lot of what I call positive stubbornness, I guess you could say, but also really all over my body.
Wow.
I was on the tail of the aircraft. We talked about that crew complement, and it was a tactical mission, so they needed someone on the tail, and there I was with the.
And you were manning the 50 caliber gun on the tail. Okay.
Yeah, we call it, for our mission, it's more of a defensive weapon, but yeah, it's necessary. And it was at night, and I was looking out the back of the aircraft with my scanning to make sure we were okay to land. And from my perspective, the ground just suddenly came up with a lot of chatter from up front. So something was definitely going wrong, something that they didn't anticipate and really they couldn't really do much about.
So it happened really fast, and when you were unconscious, I guess, at the crash, and you had all these injuries, when did you wake up? How did you know what was going on?
Right. I was dragged out of the aircraft. Basically helped them out where I could on the battlefield, but ultimately, to a tremendous loss of blood, I succumbed to just exhaustion and all sorts of battlefield fatigue at that time, and did not wake up till about a week and a half, 2 weeks later.
Wow.
At Walter Reed.
Must have been a painful way to wake up.
Right. I say this in a way. It's imagine one of the most traumatic experiences of a life, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and then you fall asleep.
Wow.
So it can, as you wake up, there's some answers that you want explained. Yeah.
So I understand one of your first goals was to learn to walk again because your injuries were incapacitating, it sounds like.
Very, yeah. We call it polytrauma. Poly meaning many, all over my body, and to include my legs, so I couldn't walk. And it took really a team of experts and physicians to get me back up over a long period of time.
Wow. And where did you find inspiration to, that's got to be such a challenge to go through all of that, have all these injuries, wake up in a strange place, and now you've got to learn to walk again. What compelled you? What gave you that drive and motivation?
I definitely would be remiss if I said my family and friends, as well as my military family and friends. The amazing amount of support network we have, just like we have here locally, makes a huge difference to folks. They call their alive day, their day where everything kind of started over for them. And most wounded warriors, I say this many times, what's the one thing they want? They want their life back. And so a lot of folks, everybody's different. They approach it differently, and with that, they need that care from many different folks.
I understand that your second goal, besides learning how to walk, was to learn to fly again. Did that happen?
That did happen, yeah. 3 years to the day, right here off of Hurlburt Field. I had the amazing support from the top down, from my family, friends, as well as the military and community. I appreciate it. I appreciate that very much. I just had my final flight about a week and a half ago, so it's been an amazing. I never thought I'd be out there this long doing it. So.
That's great. So you're coming up on, or you've surpassed 20 years, so you're getting ready to retire.
Okay.
And let's just go back just for a second. I understand that part of your recovery not only was at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Maryland, but also in Texas, and Fisher House was extremely supportive. Something about pavers and that support team there. Tell us more about that.
Right. Well, the Fisher House, they're located all over. We have our own amazing one here at the Emerald Coast, right there at Eglin Air Force Base. And I was happened to be the one in Texas at the. It was co-located to a building called the CFI, the Center for Intrepid, which basically is where you learn to basically function again, walk, do your active daily life. Well, the Fisher House smartly was located right next door. And in between, the go-between was a brick pathway, and each brick was actually donated by someone, and they would put a nice a verse or a scripture or words of encouragement. And when you're a guy like myself and many others that are traveling every day from one place to another, those bricks provided a tremendous amount of inspiration to myself and many others.
So you're reading the bricks as you're walking and learning to take a step after step.
Yeah, it's your own inspiration book because you're not walking normally or fast. You gotta,
Right.
They're gonna, it's a very slow process, and so you have time to read every one and be thankful for all the amazing people that really just were there to support you as well.
One brick at a time. Huh?
One brick at a time.
One step at a time. Is there a brick in particular that rings back to your memory and something you still live by?
I would say maybe one or two at the time, but looking back at it, they were all equally amazing in my book.
Oh, that's great.
And again, different. It spanned the spectrum of motivation.
So, what does the future hold? I understand you're looking forward to retiring. You have a wife and 2 lovely kids. You live along the Emerald Coast. What are you thinking?
I'm just very lucky and humbled, and right now in my career it's a bittersweet moment, but fortunately with, like I said, all the support, I've been able to pick up my life again and continue on. So I haven't established the next goal yet, but I would say staying local in this amazing community. I mean, who'd want to leave it and find something to continue on with, but very fortunate to continue on, especially here in the Emerald Coast.
That's great. And we talked a little bit about a lot of wounded warriors face a variety of struggles because every person is unique. But some of the common ground, if you will, going through recovery like that is post-traumatic stress, and a lot of, due to trauma and experiences. And you were saying you don't agree with the PTSD, the D, which is a disorder. Why not? Why should D be removed from that?
Right. I tag along with George W. Bush on that. He kind of started it for me as far as realizing that at the same time I was going through a lot of my recovery. The disorder part, it's not a disorder in my opinion. It's just post-traumatic stress, meaning that it's something that affects us all. And whether we're boots on the ground downrange, something going bad, something terrible happening here locally, it doesn't just stop at one person or one type of individual. It affects us all in many different ways. And it is known to be there even before we put a stamp on it. And so I think the disorder isn't the appropriate word because of the nature of how a lot of times we get these and we don't want them. You know, it's not something even inherent, just a traumatic event can spur that. So.
And can someone recover from this type of trauma and the stress and the mental and physical after effects of it? That's the
great news, and with the amazing support the military has generated on it, you absolutely can. But I will caveat that with everybody's different, and so it takes that unique team of specialists and the support network that we have here, like the Invisible Wound Center going on, and that's going to be just an amazing opportunity to help those in need all around.
And where is that?
That's actually right here on the Emerald Coast, right at Part Eglin Air Force Base. It's going to be a great opportunity for our folks to have that further care.
Well, wonderful. So we'll give a shout out for everyone to come out to May 2nd and join Chris and the community in supporting that. And I want to thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time in our community. Thanks.